Budget decks in every format are always something of a middle-of-the-road kind of situation. You want effectiveness, power, and fun, but you want it to be cheap. Naturally, this is difficult in a lot of cases. Most decks in most formats are expensive. The cards in them are expensive because, well, they're the best cards, hence the increased cost. And while we love creating and showcasing budget decks that can absolutely help you hold your own at Friday Night Magic, most of these lists are not Tier 1 competitive. Today, we're going to show you a budget list that is. And to prove it, we'll be using TCG player pricing throughout the video, just so you can see how stupidly cheap this top tier deck really is. Lastly, if you want to see the full deck list, or finally pull the trigger on purchasing the deck itself, you can click the first link in the description. Alright, let's get into some green-red energy goodness. Now, I'm assuming you've already seen versions of this deck running around for the past few months. Green-red energy isn't some secret strategy. The reason we're teching it today is because there is a best build for it statistically, and you all deserve to know the current best budget deck in the format hands down, not even close. With all of that said, we'll begin with the lands as per usual. We're running playsets of both Aether Hub and Game Trail. The energy production from the Hub is really nice for us, and Game Trail is simply fixing for our red-green cards. The rest of the mana base is simply 7 forests and 4 mountains, 19 lands in total. Pretty simple. What's funny is that Aether Hub and Game Trail combine for almost 50% of the entire deck's cost. So if you're building this deck on a budget, you can swap the Game Trails out for a playset of Evolving Wilds. I would not, however, remove the Aether Hubs. You need them, you'll see why in a second. We'll begin at the bottom of our creature curve with one of the best creatures in the deck, Voltaic Brawler. 2 mana for a 3/2, when it enters the battlefield you get 2 energy, and you can spend 1 energy when it attacks to make it a 4/3 Trampler. Needless to say, Voltaic Brawler is one of the payoffs for running red-green. Far more powerful than its mana cost would suggest, this creature sets the bar that your opponent must jump over. As long as you have energy, and believe me, you pretty much always will, this is a menace to deal with, a true nightmare. Next up is Servant of the Conduit, a 2 mana 2/2, not the combat genius the Brawler is. The Conduit has 2 purposes. First, it's 2 mana for 2 more energy. That's just fine with us. Second, it lets you use energy to ramp to your bigger threats or impactful spells, both of which will be covered in a bit. And while being a 2/2 for 2 is normally unexciting, the Servant is a nice blocker if we need one, and can sometimes get in for damage as well. It's a solid inclusion. Our last 2-drop is Long Tusk Cub. This cat may seem unassuming, but it's too good not to play, especially against an empty board. While it doesn't enter the battlefield with any energy, it's an energy production machine. And you know we're running a red-green deck. You have to imagine there will be ways to get this Cub's damage through. As far as energy producers go, this is our only real repeatable energy producer, which makes it very valuable. Moving up our curve, we find the real epicenter of the strategy in Electrostatic Pummeler. This construct is one of the most explosive creatures to come out of a standard legal set in a long time. Don't let the 1/1 stat line fool you. Thanks to its activated ability basically doubling its power and toughness each time, the Pummeler needs only a little help before it can go berserk against an opponent. Think about it. This deck creates energy like crazy, and you can activate this ability more than once if you want to. We'll put a pin in the Pummeler for now, but remember, this card, truly ridiculous. The last creature in the deck is Bristling Hydra, and honestly, this card embodies everything this deck is about. 4 mana for a 4/3 is a decent cost to power toughness ratio. It enters the battlefield with 3 energy, that's amazing. And you can pay 3 energy, it gets bigger, and protects itself. Is there anything else you could reasonably ask this card to do? Maybe make some waffles, but that's just being greedy. Even if you don't need to use the energy to protect the Hydra, that's 3 energy. That's a whole other Pummeler activation right there, in addition to the 4/3 body you're getting on the table. Great top-end creature to this curve, and with the Servant, you can get this bad boy out turn 3. Now that feels good. How good? Oh, real good. Now, as you might have guessed, our creatures and Aether Hub just don't make enough energy. We need more energy. The deck also runs a tune with Aether. We're a multicolored deck, so the land search does have value. Which also leads us to favoring forests over mountains when building up the land base, by the way. Gotta make sure we can cast a tune, especially on turn 1, when we have literally nothing else to do. Of course, the real reason we're playing this card at all is because it adds 2 energy straight up. Not only that, we guarantee a second land drop in our 19 land deck, but we also get 2 energy before we've even dropped a creature. The value continues. Our other energy producer actually doubles as a removal spell. We're running Harness the Lightning because the card is literally perfect for red-green energy. Our deck is light on removal, and by light I mean Harness Lightning is our only real removal. But the best part about this card is that it generates 3 energy on cast, and we don't even have to use all of it. We could use none of it. If we needed to, we could dip into our energy storage to add more than 3 damage to it. The versatility of the Lightning is perfect, especially again, because 3 energy is the magic number to get our Pummeler in activation, and to protect our Hydra if need be. Harness Lightning is basically a protection spell. The more you know. We finally moved into the nitty-gritty of the deck, the pieces of this deck that win the game out of nowhere. For the rest of the video, we're going to be referencing our good friend the Pummeler a lot. We'll begin with straight buff cards. Blossoming Defense is in the deck because it adds another layer of protection to our naturally vulnerable creatures. Besides the Hydra, none of them have innate protection against actual removal, so when we decide to start pumping them up, Hexproof is going to be really handy, just a solid card for a solid cost. The deck also runs Larger Than Life, and this is where the math needs to start. Remember, the Pummeler can add power and toughness to itself based on its current power. Cast Larger Than Life, it's a 5/5. Pay 3 energy, it's a 10/10. If you have 3 more energy, that's a 20/20 Pummeler with Trample. Now you see where the deck gets its ferocity and why it's actually good. It can win out of nowhere. With this in mind, the rest of the cards we're looking at are designed solely to make our creature package swole. Rush of Adrenaline, Uncaged Fury, and Built to Smash, the meanest group of combat tricks this side of Kaladesh. If we manage to get our Pummeler to a ridiculous power and toughness, not having Trample is a bummer, huge bummer. Rush of Adrenaline adds some trample consistency to our plan while buffing up our Pummeler's power a few more points. Built to Smash is included specifically for its interaction with the Pummeler itself. While giving +3/+3 to any creature for 1 mana is often great, the added bonus of trample on an artifact is too good to pass up. Again, more trample consistency. Now, Uncaged Fury is the card that really sets this strategy loose. Imagine you have your Pummeler, cast Larger Than Life, it's now a 5/5 with Trample, then you play Uncaged Fury. It's now a 6/6 with Trample and Double Strike. Then you activate its ability a second time. Now it's a 12/12 Trampler with Double Strike. Do you have any idea how impossible it is to block something like that? Honestly, your opponent better hope they have hard removal that you can't hexproof in response to because wow. That creature is going to burst through anything they have on the board. 12/12 Double Strike and Trample, are you joking? And the best part is that you're running 21 pump or energy production spells. So many different combinations of these cards will lead to victory. The sheer redundancy makes all your creatures threats. That's right, it's not even just the Pummeler your opponent has to be worried about. I've smashed in with a 10 power Cub with Double Strike, or an 8 power Brawler with Double Strike and Trample, or a monstrous Hydra with Hexproof and a bad attitude. The combinations are near endless. That's red-green in a nutshell. We'll go over sideboard and budget concerns in a minute, but let's review what we're doing here. Green-red energy is an aggressive deck looking to win the game on the ground with minimal interference or interaction. The deck performs best against empty boards early, obviously, and does quite well dealing with low-toughness creatures and a lack of hard removal. You're going to be the aggressor most of the time, but try not to be worried if you aren't somehow winning on turn 3, because turn 4 can throw the game completely in your favor. Turn 4 is your first big turn. Until then, it's mostly setup, so don't get frazzled if you haven't done anything super crazy yet. The deck is aggressive, but no deck in Standard is consistently that aggressive. So again, turn 4 to 5, you should start seeing the pieces of your combo come together. Lastly, whenever you're about ready to go insane, save your Blossoming Defense if your opponent could have removal. Do not rush that out just for the buff unless you know there's nothing they can do. Always save it to save your huge creature. Remember, this strategy being uniquely good against removal is one of the linchpins of success. Use that. Just some thoughts. As far as the sideboard is concerned, we have a lot of your standard cards here. Natural State is going to take down the pesky Copter, which is everywhere. Galvanic Bombardment, also great against low-to-the-ground decks trying to either outrace you or get in your way like Blue-White Flash. Clip Wings is great against Avacyn or anything with flying since you don't care about flying, so basically Blue-White Flash. Lathnu Hellion is bonkers for assassinating Liliana out of nowhere. There's plenty to work with here, clearly. In regards to budget, and I am absolutely not joking when I say this deck is near optimal. I know it's cheap, I know there's an inkling to want to do more, make it shinier, but you shouldn't. This is the deck that players are running and winning with. This sub $50 deck. Seriously, I'm not joking. If anything, like I've said before, you can make it even cheaper if you need to by replacing the game trails with Evolving Wilds or something. The deck is hilariously affordable for how competitive it is, and believe you me, it is certainly competitive. That's going to do it for today's video. What do you think of Green-Red Energy? Is this a type of deck you'd consider playing? If you really want something tier 1 competitive and cheap, there literally is no other answer for Standard right now. This really is a miracle, I'm not gonna lie. So again, please let me know what you think, and remember, if you want the entire deck list, or want to purchase any of the pieces for the cheapest prices around, be sure to click the first link in the description. It helps out a lot. As always, thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.